I'm like, very good. So anyway, that's Stephanie over there. So I'm going to be doing this, and we'll figure out what we're going to do. I really don't know. We'll see how that works. And then I also want to thank Scott for introducing me to all of you. This has been a tremendous evening. You all look amazing. The food, my God, I feel like, I was just talking to Joe that I feel like taking a nap and watching football right now, but I'm going to get up here. We're going to get that enthusiasm going. It's going to be fun. So we're going to get started here. We are here to talk about the Erie Canal boat, Seneca Chief. I'm going to do something real quick. Okay, there we go. All right, went to the eye doctor today. He's like, you're going to want to keep those glasses and for the rest of your life. Okay, great. So can't really see there, so now I can. Very good. So the Erie Canal boat, Seneca Chief. I don't know if you guys know this. I walk around a lot. I used to be a teacher. So this boat was the first boat that opened the Erie Canal back in 1825. How many guys and people have heard about the boat? You've seen, okay. How many people have seen the boat? Yeah, there you go. It's a big boat. 73 feet long, 12 and a half feet wide. And this was the boat that Governor DeWitt Clinton brought down from Buffalo all the way down to New York City and opened the Erie Canal back in 1825. And what we decided to do at the Buffalo Maritime Center was to build a replica of it. Now, we decided to do that probably in the 90s, way before I was even thinking about this. Our founder, John Montague, had the foresight to say, look, this is coming up in 2025. And it was like 1999. He says, we really got to do something here. So we decided to do it, and we started doing, and when I got involved, we started doing a public sort of outcry to say, well, this needs to happen. The Buffalo News came in and said, build the boat. And next thing you know, someone came in and gave us money to build some of it. And next thing you know, all the politicians, no offense, Robert, came in and said, I love this idea. This idea was the best idea. Of course we wanted to do this the entire time. In any case, we were able to build a boat, the long shed building down at Canal Side, and we got going on it. So what you're about to see is the story of how it was built and what we're going to be doing going down to New York City in September. So, Stephanie, if you will. So, the Buffalo Maritime Center, we inspire meaningful connections and life lessons through community boat building, preserving maritime heritage, and exploring the waterways of Western New York. Essentially, we believe that when you build boats, you build community. And if you come down to our shop, that is in the Riverside section of Buffalo, you will see that. It is 28,000 square feet of boat building fun. You could just walk right in, and you're going to walk right in and say, am I able to walk around here? Oh, yeah, of course. And you're going to have people building boats in that shop. We are a museum, though, and we have right now a whole exhibit dedicated to the canoes of New York State. So you're going to want to come see that, too. But we do bronze pouring there. We teach kids how to work with their hands, but also with their minds. And together with, is this working? You guys good? Can you hear me if I talk like this? Yeah. Oh, perfect. I have to hold that thing. Okay, my hands are going here. We're ready. All right. So the kids come in and they start building boats with people of all generations. And they're not going to be boat builders. Some of them might be, right? But they're going to use those skills to transfer them over to be, if they want to be a doctor, if they want to be a welder, if they want to be anything, the critical thinking skills that you pick up building boats can be applied to anything. So that's what we are doing at the Buffalo Maritime Center. So let's see, I want to keep on going here. Let's go to the next one. Let's jump right into the Erie Canal Boat Project. What is this project? Now, that drawing that you see up there was done by Henry Schmidt. I used to work with him back at Fisher-Price, back in the 2000s area. This whole image tells the story from the drawing all the way to the building. And that's why I really love that image. But we are a modern day community boat building project. We were. This was, at the time, one of the largest boat building projects in the world. Community boat building. Over 200 volunteers worked on this thing, and they are still involved, right? So the Erie Canal boat, Seneca Chief, is the flagship of the bicentennial. We sort of adopted that. Nobody's ever stopped me when I said that, so we're just going to say we are the flagship, okay? So it has 3 objectives. We want to share stories and techniques of traditional boat building, and folks that have you seen it being built? How many people have done that? You've gone down there? Yep. When you were down there, you saw that people were steaming 4x6 pieces of wood. They soak it in the canal for 2 months. Then they steam it and bend this with steel, right? The bronze bolts that are holding all that boat together were forged and manufactured essentially in our metal shop. So all of these things are to keep that maritime heritage going. We also want to explore the history and the impacts of the Erie Canal. And this is something that we're going to talk a little bit more about. That story has grown. It is way more complex than we would have thought. You cannot think of the Erie Canal story from 1817 to 1825. It is well beyond that. Okay, so we're going to touch on that tonight. And we want to foster a sense of responsibility for the environment. We're taking this trip down to New York City. Why? To connect community and to say, look, 200 years later, this is going to mean something different than it did back then. When DeWitt Clinton went down the first time, he took a cask of water from Lake Erie and went all the way down to Sandy Hook, and he dumped that into the water, and that became known as the Wedding of the Waters. Wonderful thing. It was all about commerce. It was all about connecting. We're good. We're good to go. This day and age, we would never be able to do that. Plenty of reasons. But what we're saying is that what we can do right now. We're going to pay homage to the past while talking about the future. Next there, Steph. So let's get into the construction. What you see on the screen right there is the keel. This thing was built from scratch. A year prior to this moment, there was a 68-foot-long table in our shop where we lofted the boat. We took a drawing about this big, and we made it 68 feet long. How did we do that? Well, it's called a technique called lofting, and we broke that up, and over the course of a year, we found what was going to be the patterns. So this was October 2020. Anybody remember what happened in 2020? Yeah, so this was a really interesting experience for us because we had a lot of people walking around with masks, which was good because when you're boat building, you need a mask anyway. So I was like, oh, good, this is normal. And we started building the boat. So next, the frames. One by one, these 53 frames were fastened. This is all oak, put again together with bronze fasteners. And this was, let's see what date that was, July 2021, right? Now, I should back up and say, in this place, the Long Shed, it was an agreement with the state that said, you guys can use this building, we'll build it so that you can build this boat, but you have to be out of there in 2023. And we said, sure. They're not going to remember, right? We're going to be so good at this, they're going to say, you know what, guys, just stay, build the next boat. And we honestly thought that was going to happen, and then it didn't. So we did get another, I think it was like 9 months out of them, so that was really helpful, right? But we'll say why we need to move on from that, and that's a good thing. By the way, we're very appreciative of the state for giving us this building and for opening the doors to the public so we can build this thing in public. Let's go to the planking. So what you see up here are volunteers, just like yourselves, that came in here and really might not know much of anything about boat building or building in general, but they started learning about how to spile a plank, how to plane. All right, all of these planks, this boat is double planked with cypress, an inch thick. In the middle of those two is a sheet of Dynel fabric, which is sort of like fiberglass, acts as that with epoxy. Now, that's not traditional. We also want this boat to last 30 years. Back in the day when they made these boats lasted 2-3 years, right? We want this boat to last. So we built this as robust as possible. So it was a bunch of modern and past. Let's go cabin framing. So December of 2023, that was last December. This is what the boat looked like. And this is when we were freaking out, okay? So I kept on hearing from our master boat builder, who I love dearly, Roger, and our lead boat builder, Greg Dudley, the cabin will go on real quickly. Don't worry about it. The hard part is the hull. So, okay, and next thing you know, Stephanie, my wife, is on there planing the boat because we need everybody and their mother, literally, to finish this boat because we had to be out of there in May. We decided this. We couldn't pull any more blood from that stone. We couldn't do it. So This was December 23. It was all hands on deck situation. The next one, January of 2023. Literally a month later, this is what the boat looked like. All right? We started doing the planking and the paneling on the cabin top. And then next, April 2023. That is what the boat looks like. And that's what it obviously looks like now. So we got it done, at least the exterior, right? So we start talking to people about this. Oh, is the boat finished? I'm like, yes, from the outside. So we have to finish the interior, and we're still working on that. But why we had to finish it in April 2023? Because the next slide tells the story of launch day, right? And what, Skip, you were talking about a couple of days before you guys came, we had no idea how this thing was going to go. And you couldn't put it in the commercial slip. By the way, you guys know that the commercial slip in Buffalo is the original terminus of the Erie Canal. It's a sacred spot, right? So you couldn't essentially pick that thing up and drop it right in because the crane wouldn't do that. The ground is something with the ground. So we had to lift it up onto a flatbed trailer and pull this out, drive 5 miles down the road to the Port of Buffalo, and then put it in there, and then pull the thing back. So this was a morning where it started about 4:30 in the morning for me because I was doing interviews, live interviews, to get to say, we're excited about this. You know, I only cried a couple times that day. The worst part was in, I think Channel 4, and I'll never forgive her for this, she started saying, how are you feeling? I'm like, and like all of a sudden just started weeping. And I'm like, what is this feeling? And what it was that you took a look at everybody who put their heart and soul into this boat project. Its purpose. People found purpose with this boat. So when they say, how do you feel now? Well, man, I don't know if I'll ever get this experience again in my life again, but we are trying. We have another plan. We're going to build the Griffin. Okay. So what you see up here, you guys know the Griffin? Some of you do. Yes. Very good. That's the next part. All right. So you see that trailer. By the way, if you can go back to the next, the first slide, one before that. You see that boat? I don't know if you see, but there's a shadow underneath that boat. That boat is hanging over. So, all right, you got a boat this big, right? It was held on here. And about this much of the boat was hanging off. And I've never seen Roger, our master boat builder, be so upset. Because what if we didn't build it right? What if it was hogging a little bit? What if it came down? Well, that boat, I will tell you, didn't make any sound. We made it so well that stayed together. Now, I will tell you that it does leak. But the good news is that all wooden boats leak. So I've been told. I think they tell me that. I don't think that's actually right, but no, it is right. It is right. So, but anyway, you see that's just hanging there. It was a strange, strange experience. All right, next. And then let's go to the next one. So leaving the Longshed. This was noon. All that happened right before then, right? So we're leaving on this trailer, and it's just like that. Literally, forgive the phrase, it's a birth. I mean, like, it just came out of the Longshed, and there were thousands of people just looking at that, because you don't see something like that every day. All right, next slide. We had to pick the whole thing up. Now, again, you see it is held on by 2 straps, very close to midships. And by then, it was like we had already been introduced to how crazy that is. So it was like, okay, they're just lifting it up in the air, you know? And we're talking about 40 tons of this boat was then placed in the water, and we ran into the boat to see what was going to happen. Is the water coming in? And it did, but it was real slow. It was nice, because what happens is all of those planks, even though you paint them and you epoxy, we didn't epoxy the outside, all of that swelled. So now it's a very manageable bilge. It's only about 2 or 3 inches of water, and it's just getting better as much as it stays in the water. All right, next. That's the arrival to the commercial slip, the first time we pulled in there. And you can see why this song, Low Bridge, was written. When we were going by, a couple of us actually got on top and went underneath. And you had to literally get down. So that was an amazing day. Let's go to the next one. So then, a couple weeks later, we had, on May 25th, the inauguration of the Erie Canal boat Seneca Chief, where we brought it back out into the harbor. We had a bunch of dignitaries on. A friend of ours, Jomo, who was a part of the Carpenters Union, was drumming on top. And we pulled this in to a huge fanfare, and we gave our speeches and did all of that really wonderful things that you do in these moments. And our founder, John Montague, you can see the picture there, with his wife, Rebecca. Rebecca went to smash the bottle for the christening, and it bounced a couple times. Then John finally went in there and smacked it, and it worked out pretty well. So that was a wonderful day to be a part of. All right, so let's talk next one. So how does this boat move? This is an unpowered vessel, right? No engine, no nothing. But we did acquire the C.L. Churchill. It's a tugboat that used to tow and I know some of you might know this, the Lois McClure, right? Yes, you did, right? That's an 88-foot sailing vessel, yep. Oh, you did? Alice steered it. Very good, yeah. So that boat came from Lake Champlain, and this was the tug that accompanied that boat. Now, fortunately and unfortunately, let's start with the unfortunately, the Lois McClure is now dry docked, okay? There was way too much that had to go into it to keep it going. So it is now going to be found at Port Byron, right? You know that when you go to the thruway, you go to that exit and there's like that canal museum. That's the Canal Society of New York, right? They are literally going to put that boat on that property. So you're going to be able to see this. I encourage you to check it out. But the C.L. Churchill was an amazing boat and is an amazing boat. The problem is the engine was a little, a little iffy, let's say. So thanks to the New York Canal Corporation, we were able to purchase a new engine, but we couldn't put it in because we had to use it all summer, right? So keep on going. So just a couple pictures of the whole tow in action. The Churchill tows the Seneca Chief, what's called on the hip, which is in the stern, typically on the starboard side on the Churchill's port. And keep going. This you might recognize is your area. It's right? So we came in, I think this was probably for Canal Fest, but you can see the colors. By the way, the colors of the boat, a lot of people ask us this, like, why are they so bright? Well, that's what they were, okay? So we had to make it. This isn't something we just chose. This was historical. Now you see the other little boat on the side. We call that boat the Scoocher. When the Lois McClure was being pushed by the C.L. Churchill back in the day, there was an inflatable boat that acted like a bow thruster. So there's only so much that the Churchill can do in the back. So sometimes you need to kick the bow over, and actually that's how we parked so hopefully well in Tonawanda. So this boat is a little push boat, and back in the day it was called the Oocher. So we're calling it the Seneca Chief Oocher, which is the Scoocher. Okay. And we are actually building one. If you come down to our shop, you will see the next Scoocher, the real Scoocher, that is being built from scratch in cold storage area. So let us know if you want to come see that. All right, and then another one, that's just another close-up of the Churchill. That's one of my favorite boats. I love it. It is so seaworthy. So let's go with, you see the timeline up here. I'm going to read to you what's going on. So in May we did the launch and the inauguration, May of 24. We did sea trials and programming throughout 2024. We actually went to Rochester, which you're going to see a couple pictures. The winter berth, you're going to see a picture. It is in Lockport right now, and it is all covered up. All right, so you can go see it, but you're not going to see much. World Canals Conference is September 21st through 25th. I don't know if you guys know this is coming, right? You're going to want to be a part of that. People from all over the world that appreciate canal history are coming to Buffalo, right? And part of the whole Canals Conference is that we are going to depart for our trip to New York City on September 24th at 10 a.m. We've been talking about this because a lot of people are coming up and saying, well, do you know when you might be around? We were just talking, I think Joyce was talking about that. I said, yes, we do, because we have to. We have to be on our way at 10 a.m. that morning. Now, I will say that. Who knows if that's going to happen, right? But we will be in Tonawanda that day, September 24th, around 1 or 2 o'clock. So mark it in your calendars, right? So there's that. And then we are going to go all the way down to New York City. And this whole summer coming up, we're going to be visiting you guys like 3 times, probably 4, right? We are going to be picking the boat up in Lockport and driving it all the way down, and we're going to meet you in Tonawanda round about the beginning of May. So that would be something to see you guys there, to check it out. We're going to go back to Buffalo. We're going to do some things around sea trials. I actually personally want to go to up the Welland Canal. They're trying to talk me out of it, but I think we're going to do it. So that'll be fun. And then we are coming back for Canal Fest if you'll have us again, right? And I think Skip told the story of like, he was like, yeah, I think we could do that. My reaction, if I recall, when you guys are like, oh, you want to come to Canal Fest, I was like, I've been looking about how to get involved in that. Please, we want to come. Can we please come? You know, so, and he, you know, the enthusiasm, I guess. I don't know. There you go. So, and then of course, we are going to be leaving for the bicentennial voyage. Very historical trip. You're going to want to be a part of that. So, and then we're going to arrive in New York City on October 25th to be there for October 26th. The official opening 200 years later of the Erie Canal. Now, those of you who are canal historians will know that DeWitt Clinton left on October 26th, and he arrived in November 4th. He also went through the night, didn't stop, right? Just kept on going. It was like 2 weeks or something like that, not even. We're not doing that, okay? First of all, we don't know about the weather. You can't really do that these days. The Canal Corp will be very mad at us if we stay beyond October 26th. So after October 26th, we are going to come up river, and we're going to go to Waterford, where the boat will remain for the winter, and then we will be coming back in 2026 in the spring. Okay? Any questions about it? Well, we'll do questions at the end. Okay. So let's go to the next slide. This is our trip, our itinerary. 28 stops to get us to New York City, right? So, and you have all of the dates here. We planned this out about a year ago, and for some act of God, it hasn't changed yet, and we're going to knock on wood for that, right? But you can see all of the stops. And some days, or some stops, we are staying over for 3 days, right? We're going to arrive at night. We're going to stay a whole day and then leave the next morning. That's going to be Fairport, Syracuse, Troy, and Kingston. Okay? So this is, by the way, this, not this presentation, but a version of this is on our website if you're interested in checking it out. All right, so let's go next. So before we did all of this, in the spring of 2024, that's 2024, yeah, we did all these partner visits. We literally went to all 28 stops in the span of 3 months to meet with people about this trip. And people along the way were so excited. They were planning this stuff already. Well, here's what we can do in Lyons. You know, when you come to Syracuse, we're going to stay over here, right? So this is, I don't know if you guys have been to Waterford, but this is where the Erie Canal meets the Hudson River. And we had a wonderful guide, Captain John Callahan, helped us out. He had been doing this stuff. He'd been traveling the Erie Canal for a long time. And he took us all over. There was one day we did 10 different stops. I met with 10 different groups of people. So next slide. So this is the model of the Erie Canal boat Seneca Chief that one of our volunteers, Chris Anderley, did. And Kingston, and I'm kind of kicking myself for it right now, but Kingston was the first to say, hey, can we borrow that? We're like, well, gee, we're not going to be in the Longshore. You guys can have it. And now like everybody's like, hey, do you guys have a model? I'm like, they're not even on the Erie Canal. I'm sorry. But it'll drive people to the Erie Canal, which is a good idea. So that's Kingston Hudson River Maritime Museum. All right, next slide. This is in Albany, right? Meeting with some folks about how we are coming to the state capitol. Next. This is John Callahan and Bill Schweitzer from the Canal Corporation. Wonderful, wonderful guys. That's in Canajoharie. Just taking us all around. Next is Baldwinsville. The cool thing about this job is that I get to see all these places. I've never been to Baldwinsville. I mean, no offense, but why would you go to Baldwinsville? I would go back. It's a wonderful place, right? All these little towns along the way have the heart, right? Maybe not as much heart as you guys have, but still, they have a lot of heart. So it's going to be something to go to each one of these places on the boat. And then finally, Pier 26, the terminus of the bicentennial voyage. That is in New York City, and that is south of South Street. South Street Seaport is on the east side. This is on the west side. Sorry about that. But that's where the boat's going to go. I just went down a couple weeks ago to solidify all of those details about New York. So, and then you're dealing with tides. It's a really interesting thing to be a part of it. I don't know if you guys heard, but my background is not in the maritime world, okay? So I'm learning history. I'm actually in my captain's course right now. I'm going to be a captain for some reason. They're going to give me a license, right? But I love it. I've fallen in love with being on the water and being a part of this. All right, so next. So let's talk about the visitor experience. Now, when you guys visited, it was a really barren, it was just an empty boat, right? And then it stayed that way for a little bit. But thankfully, we have Scott Alexander Wood, who's helping us outfit the interior with our exhibits coordinator, Eddie Niblo, and our educator, Chelsea Moore. And what you see up here is people are going to come see it, and they're going to see what it's like to be on the boat back in 1825. They're going to have their hand at paddle shaping, getting their hands on work, right? And these kids that you see, they're holding up, you can't really see it, but they're holding up a little block of wood. Now, when you came, I don't know if anybody has one of these, but one of our docents had the idea of, well, all the extra wood that we are getting from this boat, we're going to make little blocks, and we're going to stamp them with BMC, and we're going to stamp them with the Seneca Chief, and we're going to give them out to kids. So when the boat was being built, so they tried their hand at paddle shaping, and then all of a sudden, the mother was just saying, well, do you want to go see the boat? You came here for that? And they're like, oh my God, yes, we have the blocks. They ran down all the way to that point right there and showed the blocks saying, we have a piece of the boat. Right? I get choked up thinking about it because that kind of stuff, all of this changes lives, right? These little moments where you don't know what's going to change these kids, right? The next generation. So really proud of that. Keep on going. So let's go with the sea trial to Rochester. That picture, who did that picture? That was Todd Alfonso. I'd like to give credit where credit is due. Isn't that a lovely shot, right? It's almost like back in the day, right? So we decided that we needed to go and really kind of test the concept. So we went to Rochester, New York, and back for 10 days. We stayed a couple days in Lockport. All right, let's keep on going. So the public programming in Lockport, and you see the little kids there, but we have kids that are coming and they're getting on the boat, they're seeing what it was like, but they're shaping these paddles. And I don't know if you've ever done paddle shaping, but you get draw knives, okay? And we're giving these very, very sharp knives to kids who are probably 6 years old, right? But they can't really cut themselves unless they do something stupid, but for some reason, it's just natural. They grab it and they start carving this paddle. And a half hour later, their mother says or their father says, hey, do you want to go get something to eat? And 9 times out of 10, no. These kids, and I say these kids, I'm 48 years old, right? But seriously, the young generation and me, people are just their phones. Everybody's on their phones. This sort of stuff has people get back to who they are, the flow, right? It is like dancing. It is like, right? It's this moment where time stops and you get to build something, and then you get to just have that creativity, and that it's hard for me to describe. But I encourage you to come see it, to try it. It's an amazing thing. All right, let's go to the next one. So when we were leaving Lockport, one of our volunteers said, hey, why don't we bring the boat into Lock 67, which hasn't had any boat in it for like over 100 years. I said, sure, let's do that. So we pulled the boat out and we pulled it into Lock 67. That's one of those photos that, and I kid you not, in 100 years, they're going to see that, right? They're going to see the crew of the Seneca Chief standing on there with that beautiful transom that Jonathan Thornton carved for us. So these sorts of historical moments, and it's only going to get better when next year, right? Next one. Okay, so then we went to Medina. Now, this is where I start talking about the boat, the Seneca Chief. Why is it called the Seneca Chief? I will say with all confidence, no one knows. Seriously, right? We do not have any scholarship, at least I've not found any yet, we still want to do it, of DeWitt Clinton naming the boat, Thaddeus Joy, who designed and built the boat. We don't know why they called it the Seneca Chief. But we do know that it was a reason for us to reach out to the Seneca Iroquois National Museum, to reach out to the Seneca, to reach out to the Haudenosaunee. I don't know if you're familiar with that word, but the Iroquois is what the French gave the name the Haudenosaunee. Haudenosaunee took it back, right? So they're Iroquois, that's what the French called us. We're the Haudenosaunee, right? So this is something that was near and dear to our hearts, saying we're going to tell the story a little bit different, because when you tell history, and I know all of you are historians and you value history, you must tell history, the entire history. You can't leave anything out as much as you are able to. So we called, and I actually got to be friends with Joe Stallman, who actually said about the name Seneca Chief, it was most likely a stinging honor to those cast aside. Now, if you know anything about Governor DeWitt Clinton, he appreciated the Seneca, right? Red Jacket was a part of this whole endeavor. But he thought it was necessary to preserve what he could of the indigenous culture, because he knew it was going away. He knew that with the Erie Canal, and as another friend of ours, Paul Winnie, as you see in that picture, said, the Erie Canal was a nail in the coffin to the Senecas, right? Did the Erie Canal displace the Haudenosaunee? Well, you could argue that by that time it was already done. However, when you talk about this, we need to start with the doctrine of discovery. We need to start with manifest destiny. The whole reason they made the Erie Canal was because we were told, go take over the world, without any apologies. So what we're doing now is we're saying the Haudenosaunee are here. They are thriving. We invited and we've gotten to know the Tonawanda Reservation Historical Society, and we formed a great relationship with them. It even got to the point where one of the women went down and sang a Seneca hymn in front of the boat. And this was a dream of mine as we're doing this. I appreciate everything that Erie Canal did, but we want to produce this story as honest as we can. So you have a panel up there where Chelsea, our education director, is talking to Paul Winnie and Terry Abrams about how they feel about going forward. And it was an open discussion. And it was wonderful. And they appreciated it, and we appreciate it. So we want to keep on doing all of that all along the way. So that name, Seneca Chief, allows us to keep on exploring that history. And then at night, we all broke bread together and ate, which was really great. Okay, next one. So we are in what? Brockport. This is Brockport, and again, there's just some more pictures of the Canal Corp came to visit us. That's what the boat looks like on the inside. At least a couple months ago. It is now being outfitted with bunks. And then we had this young man wanted to drive the Churchill, so we put him in the front seat. That was wonderful. The one young girl over there, she did not want to shape anything, and then she didn't leave for an hour and a half, so we gave her the paddle. So that was nice. All right, keep going. All right, so this was kind of the fun part of it. As we pulled into Rochester, we decided, by the way, this was like being back in college. Like, we would work from like 6:30 in the morning all the way till 11 o'clock at night. And they're like, hey, let's play some music. Felt like hippies. It was great. But it was wonderful because all the community was getting together doing all of this. But that's the boat in Rochester with the purple lighting on it. It's wonderful. Next. So we came back through, and then this is one of those foreshadowing things. Remember I told you that the Churchill's engine was like a little iffy? Yeah. So as we are pulling into Tonawanda, I don't know if you guys have wondered this or were you a part of this, it died about 3 miles outside. the boat just stopped. And we had to pull the Seneca Chief and the Churchill with that little push boat, the scooter. Now you see Chelsea driving backwards. The only way this would work was if the boat was backwards, because if you know about the physics of this thing, if you put a bridle on that boat, it just goes like this. And I don't know who lives on the banks of the Erie Canal outside of Tonawanda, but I would have just been laughing because this thing was, and the boat was just, okay, where are we? So when we turned it around, the engine was in the back, and we went 1 mile an hour for 3 miles. And then we actually had to get back into Buffalo, and then we ultimately fixed the boat. We are getting a new engine, so everything is fine with that. Okay, next. So this is the Erie Canal boat Seneca Chief, covered for the winter. That's what it looks like if you go to Lockport. Took a lot to put that together, but we had a lot of volunteers. Anybody seen it lately? No? Good, okay. All right, so let's go to the next one. The partner overview. So we are here to ask for your involvement. There's a couple ways you can get involved. Be involved in the logistics. So as we're talking, we're already talking, well, what are we going to do this coming year? How are we going to do it? Where's the boat going to go? Right? All these meetings. I love doing those meetings. We're going to do those partner trips again, and I have to go across the state to do it. So we will be coming back and saying, was that the right place? Yes, but let's see what we can do about that. So we're going to talk about that. Visitor experience. When you come onto the boat and you approach the boat, what does it look like? What is that experience? I want everybody to walk away from this project saying, man, it was so different than what I thought it was going to be. It's not just a boat. I want people who don't care about the Erie Canal leaving to saying, wow, that's really interesting. That's my job, is to make it important to as many people as I can. And I need your help with that. Please get people down there to check it out. Marketing, we have to promote this thing, and you guys have already done a wonderful job in that. And then, of course, development and fundraising. This thing is going to cost a lot of money to do this. We always ask for people to become members of the Buffalo Maritime Center. We have an annual appeal ourselves going on. And if you're signed up for our email, you'll probably get that in the email in a little bit. But we just, of course, need help to make this whole thing go. So let's go to the next one. So this was, by the way, this picture is from the Whiskey Plank event in October of 2023, where we put the last plank on the boat of the hull. And there was a whiskey made, and Buffalo Distilling still has some. It's actually really good whiskey, by the way. It's called Whiskey Plank Whiskey. And we had a lot of people in the long shed. It was a wonderful event. And we just want to thank David and Joan Rogers, all these guys, Canal Corporation, Erie Canal Way, National Heritage Corridor, and the Harbor Development. Let's go to the last one. So this picture is, you know it? The Medina Culvert. Anybody know who John Kutchko is? Okay, I didn't either, right? So this guy, apparently, you go outside of Lockport, and he's super famous. And he does a lot of documentaries, he does a lot of video, and he used to be a sports analyst or guy on in Rochester. But anyway, he took a drone shot of the boat going over there, and that's one of those pictures that will be historic. And we're going to do it again as we come through. So I do want to tell you that I do have a couple of these. Now, this was a collaboration with Buffalo Maritime Center and West New York Heritage Magazine. This is volume 1 of the Erie Canal Perspectives at 200. And in it tells the story of our project, which you see here, the politics and different stories that you probably have not heard, or at least this telling of it. If you are all interested in the indigenous perspective, there's a piece about the Doctrine of Discovery and how indigenous folks might feel. How locks work. John Montague drew all this, right? So this is a really great historical book, and we're gonna, usually it's $25, but if you want to get it tonight, $20, just come see me. That'd be great. It will support our cause. And we are doing volume 2 right now. So you can get both of those, right? So did I forget anything? No, I think that's good. So that was my pitch. You guys gonna come see it next year? Good. Thank you very much. Do you, any questions or?